game. And then we saw Spaghetti's Samuel that went Eve of Harvest his first item and then Broken Myth, then decided to tank up as well. So I personally think Samuel should just go for Eve of Harvest first into Broken Myth, and if you have the ability, you have the capacity built into your Frostburn, if not, then Shatter as a third item, then go Defense. I do not recommend the Frostburn as first item. Granted, you have a lot of slow, you have a lot of CCs in terms of slows, but it is just not as effective as when you can just sustain in the team fights. But of course, Impunity might prove me wrong and just go for the Frostburn first item, which is the general pickup on Samuel anyways. We do see a Lyra being picked up on the side of Celsior just to counter the sustain coming up from Samuel. And of course, in response to that, Samuel, their second ban would be that of Catherine.
With that, it does leave open the fact that Grace was still there. But of course, they don't need to worry about banning out Grace since Lyra is on that side unless we see a proc Grace, which... any chance to see Grace, I'm on for. But, it could always be the side of let's get this right, who's on the left. Impunity, now on the blue side, could have that Grace. But I think they could even go for someone like that Arden, just to have that zoning control. Especially when you've got Samuel with the AoE, you really want them trapped inside the gauntlet, and then you're able to put that damage down. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see an Arden here, even though the Grace pick is open.
Well, true. I mean, Grace is a really strong pick, and in the end game after with an echo is 3 seconds worth of 3 seconds. You basically channel for 3 seconds, and then you have a burst heal of 3,000. In just mere seconds. So I think Grace is still a strong pick into this. But I must agree with you, Arden looks like a feasible pickup as well. If not, then Baptiste is as well a really good pickup. Glaive would work as well, but then Bright Bulwark is always a thing, so that must be considered. We do see an Idris being picked up, which is expected. Idris is just the next strong laner at this point in time, or rather the weapon carry. I'm not surprised if they will go for that Grace. If not, then Baptiste as their roam. I'm just hoping to see a Baptiste as the roam, because Baptiste's roam just does so well against the Sky. Granted, you cannot soak up the Fall Barrage damage, but even then you can trap her in that Ordain and make her useless, or rather not mobile. Not expected. It is just go to you. You were right. They are going to go for that Arden just to create a safe zone for Samuel to just kite and dance around in.
So we see that is the team of Impunity, but how can the side of Celsior respond to this one? Just looking here, the Sky is obviously still a strong pickup along with the Lyra. I would look at some kind of form of dive. The only problem is that Impunity have done a pretty good job there. A pretty strong team comp they've got lined up for them. And you could just get counter dived. So I'm not too sure what they should do. And it looks like they are not so sure either, as they run into the last few seconds of that bonus time. And they pick the Glaive at the last second. A very versatile pick. But hopefully going to work out for them with the CC that he provides. I mean, we've seen that Glaive has been a very sought after pick with that, just the afterburn, the great positioning you can do within, in this case, going to be that weapon power. And we saw it before when Glaive went to someone like Baron. You were able to just mount them. But the problem here is you're not going into someone like that. You're going into a Samuel and an Idris. And the fact that Samuel is probably going to be able to sustain his way through a team fight, and Idris will be able to maneuver himself around enough to kind of stay alive there. And even if they have trouble with the Glaive, you've always got the Arden there with the Vanguard. So it's looking tough for the side of Celsior so far, but nowhere near impossible. Still a good lineup with the Lyra, Sky, and Glaive.
Well, yeah, I do agree with you, but there is one thing that we cannot overlook is the sustain coming up from Lyra. And Glaive generally just do really well against Idris, because in the early game, you're not that mobile anyway. So if they know how to utilize the early game and this Glaive will not go for captainy build. Instead, Glaive will just go hard weapon, like that of say Sorrow Blade into Poison Shift and then double Tyrant's Monocle. Probably Glaive would have a chance, but if Glaive is not going to match the damage coming out stat for stat with Idris, then Glaive might have a difficult time later in the game when Samuel starts to have a lot more sustain with the Eve of Harvest. If not, then but honestly, Glaive, I was expecting a Glaive pickup, and I'm not at all surprised because Glaive just works so well into Samuel in the early game. Firstly, it's either you can run away with your afterburn. If not, then you can afterburn Samuel if Samuel do come up into lane to gank you into turret. If not, then if there is not much of a lane presence, coming out from the side of, or rather not a lot of lane pressure coming out from Blue City on this Samuel, then of course Glaive can just afterburn Idris into tower, and that's what we've seen in a lot of games, or rather the few games back. Glaive is just so strong against going up against Idris, especially in the early game.
Yep. And we'll just have to see how it plays out now as the teams do load onto the fold, this time Impunity being on your blue side, and it's going to be Celsior on the red side. Oh, it's going to be tough, to say the least. I do see that Impunity have a very strong lineup for them, but you pointed out the strengths that, Glaive does have, and especially if they put Glaive in the lane, as opposed to the jungle, so that could work out for them.
I mean, whether or not Glaive in jungle on lane, that really is not the thing. I mean, Glaive in jungle, you have your surprise afterburns. That is one thing that's going for you. But then Glaive in lane, you can have the consistent. You have much more farm. As you can farm up, you can get your items really quickly, and that would help you in the later game. Blue City may be first blood at this point in time.
Celsior going into the enemy jungle very strong and able to pick up that first blood along with a fair bit of farm being uncontested. I surprised Quartervore didn't try going to the enemy jungle. Instead, they're going to focus on this lane here, and is Spitfire as the laner of the side of Celsior, and that's why I said it's going to be this lane Glaive. So, we'll have to see what they can do on this Glaive, because it is always tough as a melee hero, but I guess if you're going as against the Idris is also melee to some extent, without the chakrams. So it'll be all right for this early game, but I don't know how it's going to hold out. It's once again that question of how can Celsior's team hold out into the late game.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, in the late game, if Glaive do not utilize the early game, then in the late game, Idris will definitely out-tank, if not out-sustain the Glaive, especially if the Glaive do not build damage items to match stat for stat together with that of Idris, because Idris will generally go for Sorrow Blade first item, and as Glaive, you want to go for that Tension Bow. If not, then Sorrow Blade as well. But then afterwards, the kit of Idris allows him, like you said, to be very mobile, and that is Samuel as well. So if you can engage, and because the side of Impunity, the side of Celsius do not have a form of hard engage, they only have Glaive for the initiation. So if you can initiate well and then engage well, then you might have upper hands in a lot of team fights up there. Whereas if you do allow DevQ or even Blue City on this Samuel to just poke you down to nothingness before you can start at your engage, then it might spell trouble for you.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have to see how these team fights play out. So far, that early engage by Celsior was the right call. You have that Lyra there with the Imperial Sigil to help you out, but Spitfire needs to be careful with the damage coming out from Impunity here. Does have the Imperial Sigil to heal him back up to a fairly decent state, and there's going to be the Drifting Duck coming out from Blue City, going to help them pick up that kill onto Lyra, but Spitfire probably looking for an afterburn here onto DevQ. It's just going to trade out a bit of damage. Meanwhile, Deity Stars is sticking, or Destiny Stars is sticking around and just making sure that Impunity doesn't push onto this turret too much, seeing as Spitfire is fairly low at the moment, but might lose some farm to this. They don't rotate into their jungle, and Cordovar able to pick that one up.
Well, yeah, there's one thing about Samuel is that we saw the amount of poke that empowered Malice and Verdict that managed to pick highest up on this Lyra. And the problem with Lyra is that if you are going to dive in together with the team, you are not one of those captains that is exactly super tanky. In fact, you lack all forms of tank. What you can provide for your team really is just the heal and the bright ball will stop any form of initiation coming out. But then the side of Impunity, they can just poke from afar, especially that of Samuel. Samuel can just poke you down. Even you with Bulwark, Samuel can just poke you down, poke your enemies, poke your entire team down. And then DeathQ just comes in and just kill all of you. And that is one thing that's going for the side of Impunity. They have a better follow-up comp, especially into and Lyra, as compared to the side of Celsior, because what they do, they need to pick one out. They cannot hard engage because this is not like a utility glaive, this is weapon glaive. If they do hard engage, then glaive might be brought down to nothingness really quickly into the fight. And also because glaive just do not have the sustain as compared to that of Blue City on that Samuel. So that is one thing to consider as well. In forms of execution, at least, for both of these teams. I mean, both of these teams, they've got the pros and cons. The side of Impunity, they've got better follow-up. And the side of Celsior, they just has got a better engage with that Bright Bulwark or Arcane Passage into Bright Bulwark. If not, then Glaives afterward.
Yep, I agree with you, Van. You can see Celsior doing a good... I guess, effort on this lane to keep the pressure up. But as soon as Blue City rotates back up, it's kind of a story changed around, and Impunity have that upper hand instantly because of that Drifting Dark and the immense power that it gives to Samuel. It's just a real tough spot for Celsior at this point, and you talked about how Samuel will have that early game kind of advantage by even when he got to level 2, as soon as he had Drifting Dark, he would have that kind of advantage because whenever it's up, it just provides them so much long range damage. And you can see that the Imperial Sigil is being used, but now Sky is in a bit of trouble because they used it on Glaive, but Glaive once again really low, and Imperial Sigil is going to be up once again, but highest still too low to kind of even help with that, and they're just gonna have to back off from that tower. And you can see Impunity, they're doing it slowly, but they definitely have a lot more control in this lane when they've got the full team there.
Yeah, we do see Blue City going for the standard Samuel build of Frostburn. Like I said earlier on before the match started, I'm already expecting that because that is just a more meta build. If you do not require a lot of sustain, then of course the Frostburn, just to help our allies with the slows, would definitely help you. Would definitely help your allies and of course your team. But then honestly, going into the side, the team coming out from the side of Celsior, I don't know much about the Frostburn pickup, but then I personally think if Blue City can just accelerate the rate at which he regens with that Eve of Harvest, that would be much better pickup, and also because the extra energy as well. A lot of times Blue City has to back off because of the lack of energy. Oh my god, just look at DeathQ's health, but then he's going to be alright to heal all back up with that book that he has. Sorry, not book, that is the
Poison Ship. Yeah, barbed wire. Not Poison Ship. I was wrong. You were wrong. We're wrong. You're right in the end, but it's going to be Impunity who are diving in onto Celsior, able to find that kill onto Glaive, and Sky's the only one left standing to defend this turret, and they're doing what they can, but they really should have gone for the minions there, as it's going to be the push coming in from Impunity, who are surely going to get that one. And Blue City doing what he can, well in the Drifting Dark, he needs one more shot, and he finds it! He finds it just on the edge, and is able to pick up that kill onto Sky, pushing their advantage even more. They have that turret, the first turret of the game, as well as 4 kills up to 1, but Spitfire going to come through that portal and find his way with Afterburn right onto DeathQ. So they're not going to go out empty-handed, but so far, Impunity with the lead.
Well, I mean, Impunity is sitting at a 2k gold lead, and it's really looking strong 8 minutes in, especially with this Samuel. There is no way to punish this Samuel because Samuel in Drifting Dark has got such range and AoE on that Malice and Verdict. There is really nothing the side of the side of Celsior can do, except for hard engaging. They did manage to earlier on, but then Quasivore was there to just support the team, and of course they just couldn't handle the damage coming out from the side of Impunity, who I see Glaive being infused. They might be looking for a fight, if not a potential gank. But the side of Impunity will just back off at this point in time, probably gonna re-infuse, just gonna counter-infuse and go up against that Glaive or the side of Celsior.
And we can see Celsior pushing the lane right now. They want to get some damage down onto this turret, which they haven't been able to yet, but they're caught in a bad position as Impunity are going to push up here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a gauntlet come down from Quasivore initiation on the side of Impunity. And there it is, it gets stunned out, but it actually manages to land onto two of the members of Celsior. Maybe even a better gauntlet than they had hoped for because of Afterburn coming out from Spitfire. And now it's going to have to be Sky trying to back out of that one, but Idris going to jump onto you and manage to pick up the kill. Spitfire manages to land, but Afterburn, but is it going to be enough to get away from Blue City? Yes, it will. They managed to get out there, but Impunity are going to now take their second turret of the game. Meanwhile, Celsior haven't managed to even really land much damage onto this first one.
Well, yeah, that is definitely true. I mean, Spitfire on this Glaive, he just seems not as comfortable on this Glaive as, say, on that Celeste. And I do understand why Samuel is being picked up on the side of Impunity. Oh, Spitfire might be looking for more. Bootsing in, not even bootsing in, just riding on the speed boost from Imperial Sigil. Our Destiny Stars may be caught out right now if the side of Impunity decides to turn on him.
And that could be the case, but they do have the target lock available. No minions nearby, however. Death is going to go in for massive damage, and there's going to be the follow-up. Sky not able to escape that one, and they're going to go and take the Crystal, Crystal Sentry as well. And at this point in time, DevQ game fairly low, but it's able to get out of that one, and there's going to be the Arcane Passage coming out from highest to try escape, but Spitfire could get caught up in this as well. It could be the Ace going over to the side of Impunity, getting more than they want. I think Spitfire should have really just backed out as soon as he could. No point staying around because all he has available is an Afterburn, and it wouldn't have been enough to save highest in that situation. Instead, giving over the Ace and the Gold Miner, which Impunity surely going to be able to take without contest, because Sky at the moment up in this lane needs to be careful when fighting against this Idris, because Idris at the moment sitting on that Poison Ship and Sorrow Blade going up against what Sky has is only the Frostburn. So
I know, they did not get the Ace earlier on. It was a delayed Ace because Destiny Stars just popped out 1 second too early. So, but then again, they did get the Gold Miner, so it is just a big bonus for the side of Impunity. Spitfire is trying so hard to get, just to get onto this turret, but then Impunity, they can siege well, and generally heroes that can siege well they really just defend heroes well, defend the turret and objectives well. I mean, just look at Blue City. There is no way the side of a Celsior can even dive in and dive deep to get a hold of Blue City or DevQ, because we saw DevQ earlier on near the Crystal Sentry when he was taken down really, really low. Oh, Lara may be caught out at this point in time.
And we see Lara getting jumped onto. Idris is going to be on there. Follows them through with the passage. Doesn't get caught out by the initial gauntlet. Actually, that's their team's gauntlet. My bad. But DevQ going to be able to find the kill. And Spitfire and Destiny need to be careful. We're not sure why they're backing into their own jungle. They do have the help of Crystal Sentry, but I'm sure Impunity can take this fight if they decide to. And you see Idris going to be the one to make that decision as he turns on. There's going to be the second gauntlet dropping down. There's going to be Death from above trying to save them if they can, but Destiny Stars goes low, and there's the snipe coming out from Blue City, able to pick up the kill. But once again, not quite the ace, the unofficial ace, but Lyra up just in time to stop the boosted minions coming through. And we're gonna have to see what Lyra can do on their own. I would probably just back off and not get killed here, because you want to fight as a full team when you're up. You have to give away that anchor turret. There's no way you're keeping it, but Spitfire is nearby. I also coming into the fight. It's pretty hard for Celsior at this point. They're about 8k behind with the side of Impunity being at 33.1k, and Celsior, meanwhile, sitting back at 25.5, as well as just being 3 turrets down without taking a single turret away from the side of Impunity. It's looking pretty harsh for this mid-game when Kraken spawns.
It is really difficult for the side of Celsior now. I mean, I'm just, in my head, I'm just thinking of all the possible win conditions. But, you know, honestly, it was just down to because Glaive couldn't make full use of his early game prowess over that of Idris, and that was what that did Celsior in at this point in time. I mean, they are still trying to siege for the tower, but there is no reason that, you know, they will even get it. Glaive did not burn the boots, that was all Lara. But then again, like in the early game, they just got so much stronger. Okay.
Ooh, it's going to be the turnaround from Spitfire, trying to do what he can, but it's just going to get mounted down with the damage. Death from above not going to quite land. Destiny Stars trying to get in a bit of position, does not get hit by the Oblivion, luckily, but there's nothing they can do in a 1v1 against Blue City here, especially when they've got that Drifting Dark. They're going to get taken out. Meanwhile, DefQ chasing down highest for that ace, and maybe this time they'll finally get it. DefQ is low, but there really isn't anything highest can do on their own. There's going to be Crystal Sentry. Can he do it? Can Crystal Sentry do it? No, Crystal Sentry not going to be the MVP this time. Quarterboard did come in with the Vanguard and kind of making it a bit too hard for that to happen. You know, Spitfire at this point just pushing away Blue City, trying to clear out these minions because they know they need to get ready for the siege that is going to be upcoming with this Kraken push.
Well, yeah, and the point I was about to make earlier on is just the fact that Celsior has got a much stronger early game. I mean, barring that Blue City on this Samuel can output a lot of damage after he has, you know, the Drifting Dark, which is at level 2. But then again, Glaive going up against Idris, Glaive is just so much stronger against Idris, and yet Glaive did not make full use of the potential. And in fact, I must give all credits to Blue City as well. Just the standard rotation and the constant rotation coming out from this Samuel just really helped push Idris into the divergent path and into the late game as well.
Yep, and we now see a fight breaking out as it looks like Celsior don't want to take it in their base, and they have caught them out at a good time. However, it's going to be Spitfire too far away to help, and Destiny Stars might be the one to fall first as they do. And we now see Celsior in a bad position. They're one member down in a 2v3 situation with Kraken in the base. I'm not sure if there's anything they can do as Impunity make their push, and it's going to be Idris diving in with the Atlas Poltron. There's going to be the renewal on the side of Impunity just to get Blue City into the fight because they want to help out with this push, make it quicker, and make sure they definitely get it because Destiny Stars is a few seconds away. However, I'm not sure there's anything they can do at this point as the Kraken has made its way to the Crystal, and it's still a 3v2 situation.
Whoa.
They managed to get the Sky instantly, just bursting them down. And there's the Crystal, there's the game. Impunity taking it 2-0 against Celsior. Expected of Impunity, and Celsior, you know, a tough match to go up against the second rated team for their first matchup, but you know, that's how it's going to be, and Impunity take that one 2-0. GG.
Yep, that was definitely well played, and it was all just down to the level of macro plays between both of these teams, Celsior and Impunity. Impunity obviously coming up, I mean, you just look at their gameplay and their macros and micros, they obviously knew what they were doing with their constant rotation and their timely rotations. In fact, Blue City was able to help out DefQ in that lane. And of course, with that, they kind of just won the game from that, just disallowing, you know, Glaive to farm up, or disallowing Glaive to have the early game as well. There is one thing that I must point out about this Glaive is that Glaive went for that poison shift into breaking point and then saw tension bow, and I personally do not quite like that build because honestly, you have a lot of sustain, right? If you're gonna defense up, you're gonna armor up, you're gonna have a lot of sustain going up against. But the problem is that you don't have the high burst to counter sustain comms coming out from